You're thinking about getting an oral piercing, and you are concerned about the health of your teeth, gums, and the bone structure of your mouth. So, what I'm going to do is go through the most at risk or the least at risk to the most at risk when it comes to damaging your teeth and gums in the bone structure of your mouth in Body Piercing Basics, episode number 58. So stick around. For those that are new to the channel, my name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio located here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. So when I talk to you about this, I'm talking to you as someone who has done thousands upon thousands upon thousands of oral piercings and did my best to reduce the likelihood of damage to teeth and gums. Whenever you do an oral piercing or get an oral piercing, you are risking enamel erosion, gum erosion, and softening of the bones in your mouth. Regardless. I don't care if it's perfectly done. I don't care if it's perfectly straight. You have the best jewelry on the planet. That risk is always there. When the three major things that attribute to damage to teeth and gums and etc. when it comes to oral piercings is the placement and the amount of contact that placement causes with teeth, gum, and the bone structure of your mouth. The angle the piercing is done at, whether or not it's steep or even or straight on, or will affect how much contact it has. Then, of course, the jewelry shape, size, and type or style can affect how much damage you see. So this is one of the reasons why it's very important to find an experienced piercer, talk to them about jewelry choices, talk to them about the angle, talk to them about the placement to figure out what's going to work best for you. Because everybody's anatomy is different. So I'm going to go through what I consider the least likely to cause enamel erosion, gum erosion, and softening of the bones in your mouth to the most likely to do it. And we're going to start out with number one, traditional lip piercings that are done at that almost straight up and down vertical angle. The jewelry is usually more outside the mouth. The jewelry is smaller, has a lower profile from the standpoint of rings because most of the jewelry is outside of your mouth. It's going to have limited contact with gums and the bone structure. There might be a little bit of contact with teeth, especially if you play with it, but for the most part, out of all the piercings that we do that are oral piercings, that style with that type of jewelry is the least likely to come in contact and cause issues. Number two would be the vertical labret piercing. The vertical labrets, because they're also pierced more outside the mouth, usually do not have as much contact with teeth and etc., especially the bone structure or the gums, which are much lower. Of course, that ball being there, it can come in contact with teeth, and that's one of the reasons why it's important to have it sized correctly and that the angle of the piercing is correct. Number three is a piercing I don't do because I don't like them, and that's tongue webbing. Tongue webbing, usually, regardless of what jewelry's in there, of course, if you put a huge piece of jewelry in there, it's going to have a lot of contact. But since most people do it with like a ring or a curved barbell, there's very limited contact with gums and teeth. You may have a little bit of contact with the bone structure on the bottom of your mouth, but for the most part, it's not going to get caught on teeth as readily and etc. So it's a little bit safer than, say, a tongue piercing or other piercings in the area. Number four, low traditional labret studs. Labret piercings. When we first did labret piercings, they tended to be kind of lower into the lip, below the gum line. This limited the amount of contact they had with teeth. They still have a little bit of that contact, of course, with the bone structure of your mouth and also with your gums, but they usually didn't cause as much issues. Where we see issues with labret studs is usually when it's right at that gum line and constantly rubbing back and forth. So another option with this is to do it with the old-fashioned, if you can find them, fishtail labrets that had that piece of wire that's set on the inside of your mouth. it was a lot less damage being done to teeth and gums with that particular style of jewelry and at that placement. Number 5, beauty marks. Beauty marks basically is my catch-all for the 8 million names they've came up for a piercing that's on your upper lip and off to the side in this triangle or kind of triangle area directly below the nostril. Usually we try to do it above the gum line and into this area above the gum line and avoid teeth contact. If you request it, we'll do it lower, but if you ask me, I would go, well, that's going to give you more contact with teeth, more risk of problems. But if they're done above the gum line, usually the only thing they do is come in contact with the gums. They could cause some issues with bone structure over a long period of time, especially if the jewelry is not sized correctly. But for the most part, limited contact, limited issues. Traditional dead center, right in the middle, tongue piercings is going to be number 5. Tongue piercings, because we do them as far back as we possibly can and at that slight angle to match the tongue in the mouth, usually have very limited contact with gums and teeth in the bone structure, if the jewelry is the correct size. However, you're going to be chewing, you're going to be moving things around in your mouth with your tongue, so the chances of catching that barbell on one of your molars and biting down is always a distinct risk. You should know that going in. It probably won't happen that often, but it is a possibility. If you have your tongue pierced and you do notice discomfort on the underside of your mouth or on the top of your mouth, your jewelry is either the wrong size or style, or the angle of the piercing is way too this way or that way. It needs to kind of fit a kind of a slight angle to that natural curvature of the tongue. Number 7 is the Medusa. Medusa's right here dead center. We generally try to put it so that it's below the gum line and not in contact with the gums. The only problem with it is it will be in contact with your teeth. So sizing the jewelry and making sure that the angle is correct is very important. We want that flat disc to be as flat inside there as possible and match the interior of your mouth. Number 8, high Labret studs or lip piercings or Labret piercings. These are any piercing done with a stud straight through in this area above the gum line. Generally, we try to put it above the gum line to avoid that sweet, not so sweet spot where you have constant contact with the gums. They can still do damage to gums and teeth and the bone structure, but it's very limited if they're high enough. However, they're at a higher risk than the traditional lower ones were because you have more contact with more stuff inside your mouth, and it's in an area that moves a great deal more than that lower part of your chin, basically. Additional or multiple centered or middle tongue piercings. The further you go forward, as I mentioned earlier, the more contact you have with gums, the more contact you have with the bone structure in the mouth, and the more likely you are to catch that barbell. So when we do multiple, we do one in front of another, the further you go forward, the more likely you are to have risk, or a higher risk you're going to have for having damage. Venom bites, those off-center piercings that go down both sides of the center of your tongue. This is going to give you a little bit, well, first off, it's extremely rare that I've came across anybody that had the anatomy that I felt comfortable doing these piercings in the first place. There's a large blood vessels on both sides. It's a lot of muscle structure. You just kind of have to have the perfect tongue with that dead area right there to do it in the first place. The further you move out, the more contact you're going to have with the roof of your mouth and the bottom of your mouth and the bone structures on the side of your mouth and the gums, and the more likely you are to catch the barbell or ball while you're chewing or eating. It is closer to your teeth, more risk. This also goes for piercings, tongue piercings that are done off to the side. Once again, the closer you get to your teeth, the more problems you're going to have. That makes us halfway through the list. Let's move on to number 11, which is cheek piercings. Cheek piercings have a whole load of issues. They're like, they carry a lot of baggage, boys and girls. Not only do you have risk of massive swelling, your saliva ducts leaking, scarring, and all kinds of other problems. If they're not positioned perfect, you're going to have contact with gums, teeth, and the bone structure on the side of your mouth. Because we have to oversize them, usually to start out with those longer Labret studs, it's going to be more likely to have more contact. If they are done off just a little bit this way or that way, they will constantly be rubbing against your gums and teeth and can get caught when you bite. So they are at a higher risk than, say, a centered tongue piercing or other problem. If you're considering this piercing, cheek piercings, really do your research, know your risk going in, and know what you're willing to put up with before you do them. Just a word of caution. Now, number 12, Dalia piercings, also known as Joker piercings. They're a cheek piercing that is more forward. Another one that's extremely anatomy specific. If you don't have the structure for it, it's not going to work. It's going to migrate, probably slit through. These have a lot of contact with teeth. There's just no way around it. If they're off a little bit, they'll also have contact with gums and the rest of the structure. It's a high moving area, which expands and contracts a lot and is going to kind of do this motion of grinding back and forth. So they're at a higher risk than other Labret style or even cheek piercing. That moves us on to lucky 13, Smiley piercings. Smiley piercings located in the upper part of the inside of your lip through that tendon, the floronium tendon. Here you have a piece of metal that is in constant contact with your teeth and gums. Though you don't move your upper lip around as much as you think you do, some people do, especially when they smile or try to scratch their nose, that kind of thing. That constant rubbing and agitating, you're just asking for damage to those teeth. Your gums and your teeth will give long before that barbell or ring will give. The safest thing to do with this one would be to put a straight or curved barbell up there. Then it kind of defeats the purpose, I guess, if you like the look of the ring or whatever. Number 14 is going to be its little brother or its cousin down south, Frownies. Frownies, constant contact with the bone structure of your mouth and your gums. Usually a curved or straight barbell is worn in it. Lots of contact, lots of possibilities of issues. They are two piercings I just will not do. 15, now we're really starting to get into some dumb ideas. Jestrums. Jestrums, for those that don't know, is an upper ear or upper lip piercing that's done at the angle of a vertical Labret. The problem with these is most people's lips, upper lip is kind of shaped like this. They don't go outward like your lower lip does, which kind of curves upward, kind of like the end of a wave. Which means that the angle is usually direct contact with that back piece is in direct contact with your front teeth. It's going to get knocked around a lot. It's going to cause some damage. I have had some clients, and I have done them in the past, where they have a more outward turning tissue or anatomy there that it worked pretty well, and we could fit something in there pretty good. But a majority of people, that isn't the case. This is going to knock on teeth, and it's going to cause issues. Now let's move on to fashion-driven piercings. Sweet 16, Ashley. The Ashley piercing, I believe, regardless of what anybody thinks, was a freaking mistake. Somebody screwed up a vertical Labret piercing and then pretended like they did it on purpose. This piercing is just a dumb idea. It's a direct contact, no matter what jewelry you're wearing, with your teeth. It's going to get caught on things. It's going to cause damage to your front teeth, your upper and lower, and it's going to cause a load of issues. It's just a terrible location for a piercing. Number 17, snake eyes. Another thing I don't do. Snake eyes, for those who don't know, is this horizontal piercing through the very tip of your tongue. Also, I don't advise tongue piercing or tip of the tongue piercings. Why? I don't understand. People don't understand that this is going to be something that's going to be constantly knocking against your front teeth, in the gums, over and over and over. If you think about every time you touch the tip of your tongue to your teeth to pronunciate things, you begin to understand that it's going to affect your talking, or you're going to end up doing a lot of damage to your teeth over time. So don't get tip of the tongue and snake eyes. They're dumb. Bad idea. Number 18, another dumb tongue piercing. Horizontal tongue piercings. Who thought of this? I don't know about you, but when my tongue is flat and at its widest point, it is in direct contact with pretty much all of my teeth. Then you're going to add a 4 millimeter to 5 millimeter ball on both ends of that so they can knock back and forth against the teeth every time you bite down, every time you move. The constant contact, you're going to get enamel erosion, you're going to get teeth chipping, you're going to have issues. You're going to bite down on those balls regardless of how careful you are. The other problem is you need to expand and contract your tongue to make sound. And with horizontal tongue piercings, it restrains your ability often to do that. There's a whole host of reasons why it's a bad idea, but as far as risks to enamel erosion, gum erosion, etc., it is high on the list of piercings you don't want. Number 19, surface tongue piercings. Another dumb idea. Basically, they're a piercing done horizontally through the top usually. They don't last very long. They tend to migrate or reject. But if they do stay in, you're constantly banging it against those very fragile bones on the top of your mouth. Also, you can cause some damage to gums on the top, I would assume, depending on how you talk and how you eat, and etc. But mainly, if you put your tongue against the roof of your mouth, you're going to feel all those thin bones up there. You're constantly going to be pushing a piece of metal against that and clicking it over and over and over again. Think about how much that will cause damage over a long period of time, if the piercing even lasts more than a couple weeks. And number 20, the stupidest thing I've seen in a very long time, gum piercings. Why on God's green earth do you think this is going to be safe? You are basically creating a situation where you're putting outward stress on your teeth. It's going to do damage to the roots of your teeth. It's going to do damage to the gums of your teeth. It will cause problems no matter where it's done or who does it. It is a bad idea. Finally, one thing I do need to mention, because I did bring it up, I didn't go through the 8 million bites. The more piercings you have in your mouth, the higher risk you are of having issues. The more room that jewelry takes up, the more likely you're going to have contact. So do take that into consideration. If you have 15 sets of bites on your mouth, of course, you're going to have an increased likelihood of problems. If you have 5 tongue piercings going down the center of your mouth, you're going to be more likely to have problems down the road. I hope you all learned something. Thank you for watching. That's about all I have to say on this subject today. If you liked the video and found it informative, give me a thumbs up, because we like it when you like it. If you'd like to make sure that you don't miss any of my videos in the future, we put out about 4 to 5 with a focus on education about tattooing and body piercing. Hit the subscription and then ring the notification bell so you're notified every single time we post something. If you're a fashionable person who likes swag and loves body art, check out our merch store. We have various different designs done here by the artists of Skin Kitchen and myself. Check that out. Link is in the description. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good day. Go out there, do something exciting and thrilling, or, have a relaxing day on the couch, whatever it takes. Take care of yourself, be good to yourself, and be good to everyone else.